Inside New Orleans Sports with Eric Asher is underwritten by the Union Capital Corporation and Natel's Air Conditioning and Heating, a proud sponsor of the St. Jude Dream Home.
Good evening, New Orleans, and welcome to Inside New Orleans Sports. Over the next hour, we're going to talk a lot of local sports with you. Of course, we'll talk a lot about the Saints, the Pelicans. We hope to have time to talk a little college basketball. And as always, we got a great panel for you. Two returning gentlemen to our panel, Bradley Handwerger of WWLTV.com and Garland Gillen of Fox 8 Sports. And guys, welcome. Thanks so much for coming back and joining us on Inside New Orleans Sports.
Glad to.
Guys, as we always do, we like to let folks know a little bit about what's happening. We'll start with you, Bradley. Tell the folks a little bit about what's happening in Channel 4.
Really just keeping up with free agency and who's going where and who's coming in and salary cap this and salary cap that. It's the slow time of football.
Right, which is year-round.
Exactly.
Yeah, no doubt. Garland?
Yeah, it's the same thing with Bradley, and right now March Madness is huge. At least with me it is. I would have had a local watering hole all day today watching basketball. Probably do the same tomorrow. Right. But yeah, it's basketball right now. The Pelicans, right now on a kind of downturn. The season's coming close to an end. But yeah, Saints free agency is just dominating talk once again. And before you know it, we'll be talking college baseball down the line. But right now, it's
Were
football.
you drinking water?
Drinking water,
yes.
Mostly. Me, I drink caffeine like crazy. I got a pitcher of Coca-Cola this time there. I need my caffeine.
There you go. Well, hopefully the audience is not going to need some caffeine tonight. as I know that a lot of folks are out there going, is it Inside New Orleans Sports Tonight or is it March Madness? Well, we'll keep you locked and loaded right here on Inside New Orleans Sports. Guys, let's get started talking a little bit about the cap. We talked about it over the last couple of weeks here, and I've been blown away by what Mickey Loomis has been able to do in terms of the cap. We talked about it extensively on both the radio show and the TV show. $14 million over the cap to start. Now, as of today, a little bit over $3 million under the cap. Bradley, we'll start with you first. Talk about Mickey Loomis and how masterful of a job he's been able to do.
Between Mickey Loomis and Kai Harley, and Kai Harley is his right-hand man, kind of negotiates the cap numbers. He's their cap expert. What they've done, I didn't see it coming. I knew how well he's been able to do it, handle it in the past, but as close as they were and what they needed to do, getting Jimmy Graham, in and signing some other guys, I just didn't expect them to be able to make some of the moves they did, including Jairus Byrd, the safety, who's largely considered one of the top free agents on the market. I don't think you can commend him enough. I think they've done an excellent job.
I'm not believing all the reports from now on, okay? Every year they say the Saints are so close to the salary cap. They go out and get anybody they want.
Right.
I'm not buying it anymore, okay? Because the salary cap probably next year will jump another $5 to $10 million, and they'll just front load they'll backload the contracts, and then next year, whatever they say, they're close to it. I don't buy it.
The one thing that helped them was that the cap jumped higher than they expected,
no doubt.
and it's going to keep going up. So Mickey and Kai can make these contracts and negotiate these free agents with that knowledge, and it makes it much easier.
Originally, $123 million. It jumped to $133 million, which again, when you start looking at all this, actually it was $123 million. They thought it was going to be $126. Then it jumps to $133. But we know that next year the TV deal kicks in, and I'm of the opinion that they look at this, and when they're looking at these contracts, they're saying to themselves, okay, we know what we think the cap will be that year. And of course, now with the influx of big-time TV money, the Saints have been obviously taking, really kind of using the credit card, so to speak, moving contracts, further and further back. They're honestly, they're in pretty good shape right now, considering what they've been able to do, and ultimately what's going to happen over the next couple of years when a lot of these contracts start to balloon. They're going to still be in pretty decent shape.
Sure, and you look at Drew Brees soon. I think it's next year.
It is next year.
Is $20+ million against the cap, but when you've got these TV contracts, coming in, and it's going to strengthen the players, I guess, position with the salary cap. It's a big deal, but it's not as big. He's not going to be a quarter of the cap anymore.
Yeah, and next year you can have Junior and Cam coming up for free agency. But I believe that $10 million more next year. They'll just move these contracts around. You saw what they did with Pierre's contract. You saw what they did with Keenan Lewis's contract. Next year, they'll just keep moving around contracts. That's what they do. The lower the number, salary cap number.
And even though they sign these guys, in some cases, to 5-year deals, et cetera, we just saw Zach Strief re-signed, again, a 5-year deal, $20.5 million, 8.5 of that guaranteed. The deal had a $5.5 million signing bonus, which, again, very cap-friendly this year and next year in terms of the cap. But when you look at Zach's deal and you look at his age, you say to yourself, well, 2-3 years max. So they're looking at this down the line of again, the cap expanding, but some of the guys are getting on the contract. That's why I've always said, only thing you can be guaranteed in this league is the guaranteed money, because when you get to the back end deals, when they balloon, it's sayonara. Now, it's dead money for the team, but it's sayonara for the players. Guys, let's talk about Zach Strief first. Your thoughts on the re-signing of Zach Strief and why that was important?
I think it's a good move for several reasons. One of which is he's coming off of his best season as a starter. I don't think there's any question about that. I think he had 4 penalties. When you go through how many games they had, that's not a big deal. He was relatively clean as far as keeping Drew Brees on his feet. I think it's big for that reason. But it's also big because here you have a very strong locker room leader. And, you look at Drew Brees, he's strong. You look at some of the other guys, they're very, very strong as far as leading it. But Zach really commands that locker room and the offensive line.
He's one of the faces in the locker room. It's one of the first guys we go interview. Drew talks on Wednesdays at the podium, but when we go to the locker room, you're looking at Zach Strief, you're talking to Curtis Lofton, you were talking to Roman and Malcolm Jenkins, who are now both gone, but those were the guys that you get a good soundbite of, and they were a voice for the team. I think it's a great deal to give him a right tackle. I'm very intrigued to see what we're still going to do with Del Puente at center if he moves on and Lolito jumps into that spot. But that line going forward with the running backs, the receivers they have, I know receiver crew might still have a tweak there. I think the offense is going to be great next year.
What do you think is going to happen at the center position? De La Puente again now visiting teams. That kind of signals, I think, to De La Puente and to the fan base that they've kind of told him, go out, at this point, get a deal. I don't know if it's to get a deal and come back, but go out and get a deal. Do you think he's back?
He's shopping the league. I mean, Lance Moore's shopping around there. When you're letting guys go out to other teams, Strief never visited anywhere else.
Right.
When they start going out there, that's when you start worrying about other teams. But I mean, they like Lolito, and I think that could be a good shot for him at center. Sometimes if maybe come back for a discount there if no one's out there. Tell you one thing, one of the closest groups in the locker room is Del Puente and Jed Collins. It's sad to see, it's a business there, but they are extremely tight. We've done stories on them before. Right. I think actually one of them administered the other one's wedding. So Hey, in this business, things change fast.
Yeah, no doubt.
I think when you look at what they've done, Pierre Thomas versus Darren Sproles, you look at Eric Lorig versus Jed Collins, it looks and appears that they're looking for a better run game. And De La Puente is very good at pass blocking and commanding that position, but he's not big. And I think you may see, Tim Lolito is a bigger guy.
Oh, yes.
He's a bigger, stronger guy. I think that may be what we're seeing here. So let De La Puente, set the market for himself and see if you're willing to bring him back. But or the Saints know that they've got somebody in the locker room that at least they're comfortable with size-wise.
Is Jonathan Goodwin a possibility? Everything I've been able to read on the net, 35. Again, the 49ers are moving on. They're not going to re-sign him. Lolito is a guy that really has never played the center position. He may be a guy that ultimately still needs some work if there's an injury. Is there a possibility Goodwin is brought back as a stopgap measure?
I think if he's willing to come for a certain price, absolutely. His familiarity here. San Francisco was a pretty darn good running team last year, so he hasn't lost anything up the middle in that regard. It would be, like you said, a stopgap, a guy that maybe you bring another guy in or you use Lolito, but he can
1 year rental.
But he can teach him. He can kind of show him the ropes and how to do the job.
He was a locker room guy, too. He was one of the guys that you went to talk to when you needed a good soundbite, and you knew that he was one of the faces of the team. I remember a few years back when Del Puente and then Olin Kreutz came in, that kind of dissolved fast because Kreutz just didn't have anything left in the tank. But they tried to do that. Del Puente didn't have the job. They brought Kreutz in, they give him competition there. So I would definitely see if Del Puente is gone, Lolito getting that job possibly, bringing a veteran, somebody to push him. I mean, they do it with the kicker every year.
Yes.
I mean, Garrett Hartley had the guy from Mexico. Might as well bring somebody in there. I mean, there's going to be, obviously, you got 1 or 2 different groups or 3 different groups that you do during training camp. You know, they'll probably bring in some rookie free agent, too, to get the position.
Well, at the very least, somebody that knows the system. At the very least, somebody that is, if Lolito struggles or gets injured, that you can move him in and you're not going to lose a lot. And then from his standpoint, as long as he got something in the tank, you never know. It could be a situation where he beats him out and you got him for a year where, again, Lolito is concentrating on learning that center position. I'd be interested to see if it's going to happen. There's a lot of rumor out there that, there's some interest, but hey, you know what? There's with the net now and social media, everybody's coming here. Everybody's going somewhere.
Absolutely.
So you really don't know by that. But I think it's intriguing to think that he could come back for maybe a 1-year rental.
I think it would be a good move. Again, you talk about the locker room presence. The reason Kreutz didn't work is because he was he was just not a fit. He was a guy that came in, was very, very snarky and just didn't. And this is a group that's very comfortable with themselves and very, they joke with each other. But they're also very much brothers with each other. I hate to use the cliche, but they really are.
True.
And Kreutz didn't fit in with that. Jonathan Goodwin would come in and he would immediately know Jari Evans. He would know Zach Strief. He would know Drew Brees. He would just understand the dynamic of the locker room. And I think he still has stuff in the tank.
Right, I would agree. Garland, Eric Lorick over Jed Collins. Any indication of why? I mean, Jed Collins looked like he was a pretty good fit for this team. Ran the ball effectively around the goal line, caught passes for a big guy, was a pretty good blocker. Doesn't look like he signed with Detroit for a lot of money, but they signed Lorick to a 4-year deal, $4.8 million, $1 million signing bonus. Now, his base salaries are not a lot, but that's still a $1 million signing bonus. What's your thoughts on Lorick and why they went in that direction?
It's amazing. He hasn't one carry in his whole time in Tampa Bay. And, one of the Saints' favorite plays to use for Jed Collins is like the wham play, just hit him right up the gap. I can guarantee you that he's going to get his first carry of his NFL career this coming season because Sean loves using that play. He can play special teams too. That's a big thing with Lorick. So you always need some special teams guys.
Yes.
But 4-year deal for a fullback, that was interesting to see that many years on a deal. I know some national media types were questioning the year on there. Of course, there's one person who's always negative on Twitter. But Jed Collins, Jed's played for like 9 teams. Mm-hmm. So Lorick's a younger version.
Yes.
It's always about getting younger.
Mm-hmm.
I think, again, it goes back to what you're seeing them do with the offense. I think they're looking to run the ball a little bit more. He was a fullback for, 2,000-yard rushers in his time at Tampa Bay. He knows how to open holes. He's bigger than Jed Collins. I think that is as much as anything why they went in that direction. 4 years, I'm not sure I necessarily understand that, but he's a younger guy. He's a bigger guy. He's by all accounts more physical than Jed Collins. So I just everything that I'm seeing points to maybe focusing on the run game a little bit more this year.
Well, let's expound on that a bit. A lot of people have talked about that this is going to be a team that's going to go away from that prolific passing game that we've seen and more toward a ground and pound. I tend to think it's going to be kind of more of a balanced offense, but will we see this team more dedicated to the run, considering, again, looked like they could have run a lot during the second half of the season. They really didn't pick it up to about the last quarter of the season and then the playoffs. What do you think is going to happen to this offense? How does it change?
It was after the St. Louis debacle. All of a sudden, you saw them focus a little bit more on it. At Carolina, they definitely focused on the run. I think you saw the template in Philadelphia for what this team will be. They were passing the ball. Drew Brees wasn't he was looking downfield still, but they were also running the ball. Mark Ingram, I think, proved to the coaching staff that he's on the right trajectory. Kyrie Robinson was just unbelievable when he got the chances and when he had the ball in his hand. So I think what we saw at the end of the season is more along the lines of what we may see coming up this year.
They just love to pass the ball. I think there's still going to be a pass-first team, though.
Absolutely.
They'll probably, I don't know the numbers. Bradley's very good with numbers. 60-40 was the run ratio this past season. It'll probably still be that way. I mean, Brees is still your diamond the guy to throw the ball downfield, make the big play. Obviously they like what they got at running back. Well, it's young. Mm-hmm. And I love they have Pierre Thomas back. The screenplay's still in play. I still think they're going to definitely throw the ball more than run. But it's early in the year. When it comes down to crunch time in the playoffs, they use it the other way, and it's a good surprise. Everybody expects them to throw the ball, so when you throw in the run there, it can kind of get them off their game.
And I've always felt that, again, especially when you start looking at again, the twilight of Drew Brees' career, that you may have to run the ball more to protect him, to keep teams a little bit off balance. That's one of the reasons why I think they need to beef up the offensive line going forward, because, again, you don't want a guy 35 years old plus taking the type of pounding that he took last season.
It's a copycat league. I think we've heard that phrase used a lot in the last 5 years in the NFL. I think what you saw in the Super Bowl with Seattle and Denver is the reason that you're going to start seeing more teams become physical on defense and run the ball better and more, because Peyton Manning was prolific passing the ball this season. They didn't do anything in the Super Bowl. Seattle maintained the way they worked the entire season. They passed the ball some, but they were a run team, mixed it up, and played strong physical defense. And I think that's what you're looking at with happening with the Saints.
Bradley's spot on with most of those remarks. Yeah, not all.
But most.
Hey, Bradley and I used to work together, so
yes.
I gotta every now and then I gotta go back and forth with him. But Brees, he's got 4 years left on his contract. He probably could play 6 more years. I mean, you talk about the Broncos; they're selling out this year.
Yes.
Yeah.
Peyton's got 1 year left. That's why they got DeMarcus Ware. They got Aqib Talib. They're selling out for this 1 year. The Saints are going younger, but they got the old guys on the team. I guess you say old guys, right. Colston and those guys that are reliable at the receiver position. But I still think the Saints have a 3 or 4. I hate that they use the word window when they went out on that Monday after they lost.
Sure.
But they have a 3 or 4 year window still left. The Broncos have 1 year. So yeah, you gotta sell out for what you got right now, and they got a little more in the tank than the Broncos do.
Greenbrier, West Virginia.
Oh yes.
Again, the Saints now will split camp between New Orleans and West Virginia. I know you guys got to be excited about going to West Virginia, right?
Well, I like the mountains and the outdoors, so I'm all right with that.
Bradley, when we used to work there at WWL, we roomed together in Millsaps for a summer or whatever, it was 5 weeks. I loved Millsaps. We were there 3 years, and I enjoyed it. It was like going to summer camp. We ate in the Millsaps dormitory every day, or the cafeteria. Right. Some of those days got really hot on the field, the main field, the steam rising. It was like 120 degrees, I think, one day on the temperature on the field. I like it. Sean Payton went to Oxnard. This is not going to be Oxnard, but it's going to be Greenbrier, up in the mountains. It seems like indication maybe at the beginning of the camp. They don't know exactly. They're still waiting on the NFL schedule. But 2 weeks up there, I think it's a great idea, because 100-degree weather every day of practice, that just drains the team down. But they're only practicing once a day.
Right.
But you're practicing once a day,
Sure.
when it's 70 degrees,
right.
65, I dig it.
There's a thought process out there that, or a belief out there that, as much as they've struggled on the road recently, why not get the team used to being on the road and working on the road? You take a couple weeks out there, all of a sudden they know the routine and what it's like to be away from home, and it could be a shot to do that. So, again, there's also the camaraderie part. Garland and I, we became pals up there.
Right.
Same room. He brought his dog up there. I mean, it was.
You, Bradley, and the dog got to be really close.
We did.
Yes. She was in the bed,
right.
Jumping off and down. Yeah, it was quite a treat there.
Oh, she wasn't jumping.
It was 6 years ago. I can't remember what I did yesterday. Okay.
But I do agree with the camaraderie, and also when you look at the loss of so much leadership, the ability to get these guys away from their families, away from New Orleans, and especially if you're going to do the last couple weeks up in Greenbrier, again, really pound them early in New Orleans, and then again maybe kind of let off the gas pedal a little bit when you get to West Virginia.
Yeah, I think you're spot on with the leadership. Who on defense right now, his other than Curtis Lofton, is a strong vocal leader? You lost Roman Harper. Will Smith is gone. Malcolm Jenkins is gone. Jabari Greer's gone. There's a lot of that leadership that's not left. I think you're right with that.
And we would expect Cam Jordan to take more of a leadership role. You got to figure Bird that's coming in, he's going to take more of a leadership role. But that's got to all be developed within that locker room. The offense has suffered as well with some loss of leaders, but the main leaders are still there when you talk about Streif, obviously Colston, and in a quiet way, and of course Drew Brees. But I think that's a big part of this as well. Get them away from the family, get them away from the fan base, and allow them to kind of come together as a team.
Oh, the Who Dat Nation's going to be up in Greenbrier.
You know it. They're already. They're already.
Yeah, the hotel. I was looking at hotel rooms prices the other day. I could tell they're trying to. I'll be intrigued to see. They'll be up there, no doubt. West Virginia in the summertime, it's a good idea. They got golf up there.
Yeah.
Everybody loves golf.
Well, I saw an aerial picture of it. It looks like it's incredible.
Yes.
I mean, between the golf, the swimming, everything else, they got all the fields they have. It is quite a resort, and I'm sure that they'll get out there and enjoy that as well. 504-866-3200. This is a live show here on WLAE-TV. We invite your phone calls. Bradley Handwerger of WWLTV.com, Garland Gillen of Fox 8 Sports, our guest tonight. Joe Morgan signs a deal, a cap-friendly deal. Coming off an ACL injury, he kind of shopped himself a bit. No real takers. Bradley, I'll take you first. Your thoughts on Morgan? Is he the answer when it comes to the deep threat for this team?
I think he would have been last year. I think, his rookie season, knee injury kept him out the whole season. Second season, he played. He didn't catch a lot, but when he caught, he was his incredible speed just blew by defenses. And then he's out last year. I think that's one of the reasons for the cap-friendly deal. If he can come back, and it's going to be iffy for the start of the season because, the ACL, generally they say about 12 months or so for it to be, really healed
right.
and you can get going. That will be in the middle of training camp. So, if he can come back and his speed is there, I think he could be the guy that kind of opens things up. And then all of a sudden, Kenny Stills can come in and play the short or deep routes, and Marcus can continue doing the intermediates.
I'm intrigued to sit there and bring Robert Meacham back for another hit, another year. Because obviously I think this is the last time that we're going to see Toon. This is his last chance here.
Yes,
the project has gone 2 years now.
Yeah.
I think this is his last shot. I mean, Joe Morgan's, a 1-year deal, $500,000. I mean, that's a cheap contract there.
Yeah.
So they're pretty much bringing him in for nothing. And, I think they bring Meacham back for another year, see what he's got left. I mean, at least bring him to training camp. So, you got Colston is definite, you got Graham who's a definite, and then you got Stills. You got three guys can deliver. Now you want to find out that fourth guy. Stills is probably the next in line, the heir apparent to Lance Moore. But yeah, I think Morgan and Meacham, they're probably going to be paying him. I mean, Meacham gets a little more because he's a veteran.
Right.
But, check them out there, see what they got. I know Meacham still got a little in the tank. We saw that last year.
Yeah, and he's still living off that San Diego contract as well.
Yeah.
I mean, he really is. So, and he was the best. Again, they had him in on all the running downs because he's the best blocker at the wide receiver position that they have on the team right now. Garland, we'll take you first on the next one. Jimmy Graham, the Saints allow him to play on that franchise tag? Did they get a long-term deal? Is there a taker out there that will give the Saints 2 number 1 picks for Jimmy Graham?
I don't think so on the 2 number 1 picks. I think Jimmy Graham is going to be a Saint. I think they're going to get this done. It's going to go right to the very end, July 15th, just like the Drew Brees deal went right to the end. Right now they're not even worried about his contract now. They're dealing with other players right now. Jimmy will be back. I think everybody should be calm. Same thing with Drew. Everybody started freaking out toward the end. Obviously in OTAs and minicamp, we had Chase Daniel running the show. This training camp it'll be OTAs and minicamp it'll be Benjamin Watson and Josh Hill. And don't worry about it. Jimmy Graham will be fine. I don't think anybody else is going to take him for 2 number 1s. I'll tell you one thing: if they did offer it, it'd be intriguing to see what the Saints would do. But I don't think it's out there. I don't think anybody's going to do that.
I can't disagree. I mean, I'm not sure why a team would be willing to give up 2 first rounds for Jimmy Graham. He's a great tight end. I think he can be a game changer. I think he can still get better than where he is. But is he worth 2 first-round picks? I don't think so.
What about the tag? Does he play under the tag this year? Or do they get a deal done at the 11th hour?
Like Garland said, I mean, this is the way the NFL works. I think they will get a long-term deal done. It may take them a while, but it will get done. He wants to be around Drew Brees. You know that, and just listening to him, he's not the type of guy that is out running his mouth and looking for things and really, yelling at the team for not getting this done. He just wants to get out and play, and I think he likes it here. I think he likes playing in this offense. I think he likes Sean Payton. I don't see any reason for them not to get it done. It just may take a while.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, and Jimmy, what the amazing thing with Jimmy is, and Bradley just talked about it, he does not talk through the media at all about what he wanted.
Right.
The Seattle game, which was by far one of his worst games of his Saints career, we asked him about the contract, just said it'll get worked out there. This offseason, you won't hear from him at all, which, his first year was kind of hanging around, when he's around Shockey. Mm-hmm. Shockey's very outspoken,
yes.
kind of talk it up there. I'm glad that even he probably...
Good influence.
Yeah, exactly. And they're hanging around Miami together.
Right.
But Jimmy picks his spots good. I'm glad he didn't go with the Shockey way there.
Does it hurt Jimmy Graham not being here for OTAs, maybe getting, if a deal doesn't get done till late in training camp, does it hurt him? Should he be here working with Drew Brees, working with the receivers? How much? I mean, again, we saw, look, nobody wants to really admit it, but I think it hurt the team with Drew Brees not being here during OTAs and the extended holdout. Will this hurt the team with Graham not here?
I think it's a different position. I think Drew Brees has his hands on the ball every snap on offense, and he's the guy, looking on timing with not just Jimmy Graham, but all of the running backs, all of the receivers, the offensive linemen, and how they're blocking. Jimmy Graham plays one position; he runs routes. He can work with Drew Brees and get timing down much quicker than Drew Brees can work with everybody and get timing down. So I don't think it hurts that much. Jimmy Graham knows the offense. It's just going to be a matter of, is he going to be in shape in time?
I'm just tipping the cap to Brown. I can't, on these shows you want to add more.
Right.
You know what, sometimes you just got to be quiet and say, you know what, he got it.
Beautiful. Well, on that note, I'll tell you what, let's take our break. You're watching Inside New Orleans Sports each and every Thursday night with a live show here on WLAE TV, 6 p.m., with a rebroadcast on Friday nights here on WLAE at 10 o'clock, and also on Pelican Sports Television in New Orleans, Baton Rouge, and Lafayette. Stay tuned. We'll be right back with our guest, Handwerger of WWLTV.com, and Garland, Gillen of Fox 8 Sports. My name is Eric Asher. Stick around, New Orleans.
Inside New Orleans Sports with Eric Asher is underwritten by the Union Capital Corporation and Natel's Air Conditioning and Heating, a proud sponsor of the St. Jude Dream Home.
My life is full of statistics. Thing is, I could have dropped out of school and become one myself, but I didn't, because I had people that believed in me. Here's another statistic. 7,000 students drop out every school day. That's one every 26 seconds. It's time that students know that we believe in them.
Inspire a student and share your message of support at boostup.org.
St. Jude Children's Research Hospital is literally saving kids' lives.
It's a very special place, friendly place.
To see the kids that they're helping on a daily basis was unbelievable.
Families never receive a bill from St. Jude.
Discoveries made at St. Jude are freely shared.
The hardest cancer cases in the world go to St. Jude. We won't stop until no child dies from cancer.
Join us.
Join us
in supporting Hoops for St. Jude.
Visit stjude.org/hoops to find out how.
Welcome back to Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher. Great panel for you tonight. Garland Gillen of Fox 8 Sports and Handwerger of WWLTV.com. We invite your phone calls at 866-3200 if you'd like to join the conversation. And guys, I'm a little shocked. I mentioned it on last week's show when they said Jairus Byrd was coming in for a visit. I thought he was coming in for a great meal and getting out of town and going to sign a contract somewhere else. I didn't think there was any shot this guy was signing with the Saints.
Completely plausible.
And he signs a 6-year, $54 million deal, 28 of that guaranteed, $11 million signing bonus. And again, you look at that signing bonus over a 5-year period, a very cap-friendly deal in the first year. We'll take you first, Bradley. I'm just amazed they got this deal done. Probably the number one free safety on the market. Some would say it's plausible to believe that he was the number one free agent on the market.
It may be the deal of free agency, all teams involved. And there have been some pretty big, good deals. I think when you look at the Saints and what they needed coming into this offseason, when free agency began, they had one safety on the roster, and that was Kenny Vaccaro. Raphael Bush was tendered. He hasn't signed it yet. He's not necessarily on the roster now. So you're looking at one safety. They needed one. And they got a game-changing safety. They got a guy who is 3 Pro Bowls in 5 seasons. He has 22 interceptions, which is, I think, about double of what the 2 other safeties who manned the job the last couple of years had. He is exactly what they needed, and it was one of those type deals where Mickey knew what he had. He knew what he was capable of doing, and just knew he had to get it done.
It's a young group now with Jairus Byrd, Kenny Vaccaro. At DBs, you got Keenan Lewis on one side and Corey White and P-Rob, Patrick Robinson on the other. I like the youth movement they got.
Raphael Bush in there as well.
Yeah, and Raphael Bush, yeah. I like the youth movement they're doing at the DB position. But yeah, Jarris Byrd, you know, I love everybody says ball hawk, but that's what he is. You know, makes turnovers, creates them. He's the best thing they've had at safety when it comes to turnovers since Darren Sharper in 2009, and that was a magical season that he had. He didn't miss a beat. Darren pickoffs, touchdowns, going back the other way. The Miami game was a huge one that changed the whole game when in Miami in 2009. I think Byrd can do the same thing for the Saints. He can make the turnovers that Roman and Malcolm didn't force. He'll make up for that.
Well, and also, and Bradley, you and I were talking about this a little bit before the show. Big hole now at the other cornerback position. Yeah. Whoever they bring in, if they have to go with a young player, he's going to make that young player better. You know, again, because he can cover a lot of ground. He's not Thomas out in Seattle, but he's still very good in terms of his range. Let's talk about that cornerback position. What direction do you think they go with the corner? Are they going to go to second-tier free agency? Is this something where maybe they go multiple picks in the draft and try to get corner? What do you think happens there?
They may have to go draft in this one. I'm not sure with who is left on the market right now that they're going to get a guy that they'll be comfortable with any more than they would be comfortable with Corey White or Patrick Robinson. You know, it's in one way you have two safeties who can cover for him and a cornerback who can cover for him. So you're not necessarily it's not necessarily a position that you're fretting, but you do need somebody over there who can lock things down and give your defensive ends and your linebackers time to cover and get to the quarterback. But my guess is draft. I mean, that would be the option.
Is that corner on the team now? Is it P. Rob? Is it Corey White?
Rod Sweeting's in the mix too. I mean, you saw in the Eagles game when Keenan Lewis went out the game. I mean, the DBs got crushed. I don't know if Corey or Patrick's the answer. I mean, Patrick, he was strong before the injury. You know, he had his ups and downs, but you know he can still pick him with the best. But yeah, I think they get one in free agency. I mean, or probably the draft. Yeah, maybe you'll get one for a low price there in free agency still a corner, but the draft is where they need to go with this spot there because I don't know. Do you feel safe with Corey White or Rod Sweeting in that position right now, or Patrick Robinson? Most Saints fans would probably say no right now.
Yeah, I would be surprised if they go multiple picks in the draft at corner, or if they don't do multiple picks, then they really go after the undrafted free agents and try to bring in one of those diamonds in the rough that they've done in the past. But and I would be surprised if they go out and maybe try to find a second tier free agent, but ultimately that guy may be the just kind of a stopgap. If you got to go with youth. But they are in much better shape now because of the players they have at that position. I mean, Lewis is a lockdown guy, and you gotta love what Vaccaro brings to the table. And as we mentioned, Byrd and even Bush, who's underrated. I mean, they're in pretty good shape back there right now.
I think so. I think the focus shifts to the offense for the most part. I mean, you need a cornerback, no question. I think you could do yourself good if you're the Saints in getting younger and maybe a little more athletic at linebacker, but that receiver position, some backup offensive linemen are really kind of your key moves at this point.
What are your thoughts on the needs going into the draft? Just let's say they stand pat for the rest of the time in free agency. They don't go anywhere else. Where do you think they go?
Yeah, right now, the only spot I can think about on the defense that you could say a weak spot is the other cornerback. That's it. I mean, I love what they've done. Hawthorne came on strong this year. Curtis Lofton, the D-line, with John Jenkins. I mean, the guys on the end, obviously, we could talk all day about what Junior and Cam have wreaked havoc. That's the only spot I could think about on the team, on the defense, is going to be a hole right now, would be the cornerback spot. And on the offensive line, Del Puente doesn't come back and Lito is the guy, that could be a possible weak spot right now. But the receivers, they look strong. Yeah. The running backs, obviously, you got three of them in Cadet. I guess Cadet will be, we only get to one play against the Seahawks. That's not much of a litmus there, one play. But I just think that everything, just the corner, possibly a lineman, and then they're good to go.
Yeah, I'm of the opinion, again, wide receiver, cornerback, the two biggest needs. And then when they look for that depth, they're going to look at offensive line. Right. And I would not be surprised if they take a look, depending on, if they're looking at best player available, if an athletic outside linebacker's there, somebody that can go sideline to sideline for them, if they don't take a flyer on somebody like that as well. Let's head to the phone lines. 504-866-3200. Let's go to James in Franklinton. James, welcome. You're on Inside New Orleans Sports.
Hey, how you doing, guys?
Hey, James.
Love the show. Y'all giving Bobby Hebert them guys on WWL their money.
Sorry, all right.
You all segued right into what I was thinking about on the offensive line, because I only thought they have right now a weak link at wide receiver and at lineman. But the word is that they might go ahead, and if Della Puente does lead, they're going to bring back Jonathan Goodwin. I want to know what you all think about that, because they're going toward this power running game, it looks like, and that's going to really go ahead. They get Goodwin. He's a big man.
Yes, he
Thanks.
is.
I'll hang up and listen.
James, thank you for the phone call. I think we're all in agreement that Jonathan Goodwin will be a nice one-year rental, a nice stopgap measure, especially if Alito can't get it done this year. Am I right?
Sure, absolutely. And we talked about this before the show. I mean, center, obviously, it's in the air, but Zach Strief, I think, is good for the next year or two, maybe 3 years, but they're probably going to look for somebody to take his spot in the next couple of years. So you may see them draft an offensive lineman to not just give them depth, but to groom him for taking over.
Yeah. You know, it's amazing. We're talking a lot about the center position. There's a guy left tackle that's only played a small amount of games last year, but they're not even bringing him up. I mean, Armstead, he's got a small group of games that he's looked strong in. Obviously, the first game wasn't his best against Carolina, but I think that going forward, he's going to be a big-time deal. But right now, we're not even talking about it all. Right. About, it's his job, and it's amazing for a third-rounder out of a SWAC school, Arkansas Pine Bluff, to be, not part of the conversation, that he's got it locked in.
Yeah, he is. But again, you look, he progressed. Every game he progressed, and you got to figure now, off-season, OTAs, the opportunity to go to training camp. Long as he stays healthy, I mean, the sky's the limit for this guy. And ultimately, one day you probably want to bookend on the other side. But right now, you got a veteran guy. You got some leadership with Zach Strief. And now, when you look at that depth chart on the offensive line, you know that they need some depth there, and they're probably going to have to go get it during the draft.
Absolutely, no question. But they're in a position where they can get it in the draft and then groom them. I don't think they're going to have to get somebody that has to step in right away. Yes. And again, going back to Goodwin, I just think Goodwin, and maybe this is because I like Jonathan, and I think he does a good job, but I think he would be that final piece on the line that could really help them. Yeah,
and I would agree with that as well. Guys, Darren Sproles goes to Philadelphia for a fifth-round pick. I thought another masterful job by Mickey Loomis. There were talk all along. Once they dangled him out there were about 10 teams that had an interest. They probably would have liked to have moved him to an AFC team. We had heard that a lot of the teams were offering a 6. Philly antes up a fifth-round pick. You almost can't walk away from something like that when you even though it's in the NFC and you may have to see them come playoff time. Garland, we'll take you first. Your thoughts on that trade, how it ended up working out, and really, I thought it worked out well for both Sproles and for the Saints.
Can we name one guy that the Saints let go that has come back to burn them? They always know when to get rid of the guys before they start to really, they can see that they're going on the downturn. Now, Darren Sproles isn't on the downturn, but the Saints have done a great job, Mickey and them, of recognizing that they can let guys go at the right time. And I think they did a great job getting a draft pick for him. And, Sproles might have a little left in the tank, but I think Kyrie Robinson and Mark Ingram and Pierre Thomas can carry the load. And they saved a lot of money getting rid of Darren Sproles. So I have no problem with getting rid of Sproles at all, because if you go over the last few years, I can't name a guy that's burned the Saints there that's got a big money deal somewhere else. It just hasn't run through my mind.
Carl Nix would have probably been the only one, but he's obviously been injured.
Yeah.
And no, a loss for the Saints, but never really has performed for Tampa.
No, I mean, you can't get on the field. You're not going to hurt. You're going to have to hurt the team that let you go.
Your thoughts on Sproles?
We talked about this beforehand. I think, I understand why he still would be useful for this offense, but when you look at what the team needed and when you look at getting a fifth-round pick for him, and he is probably 2-3 years out from being done, you can get a guy who could potentially be on the roster for years to come. In that fifth spot, they've drafted pretty well in their history with Mickey Loomis in charge. So it's a good move. You hate to see him go because I think he's dynamic,
yes.
But I like what they still have in the backfield.
And I think he would have had a reduced role this year if they would have kept him. I don't think he'd have been returning punts and kicks. I think they're going to look for that in the draft. They need to find somebody that's a little bit more dynamic there. Obviously, he'd have been using the passing game, on the inside running game. But when you looked at his contract and the cap restraints that the team had him, and look, the old adage of getting rid of a guy a year before you really need to, then a year after, kind of played here. With that said, guys, in this offense, since Sean Payton has been here, there has been that Bush-Sproles clone that's out there. That guy that, again, can get the first down for you. I mean, I've said it before. 10 yards out to the pylon, I don't think there's anybody still quicker than Reggie Bush. Okay, what Sproles been able to do in terms of the inside running game. But again, you need a first down. You get on the outside to Sproles. He's going to pick up that first down for you. Bradley, do they go out in the draft specifically looking for that type of player to fill that role?
I don't know if you specifically look for that type of player. If he's the best player available, they go for him. But, look, I think Travaris Cadet could very well play that position. He's not as quick as Darren Sproles. He's a little bigger he's a lot bigger than Darren Sproles. But again, it signals to me that while they're not going to be getting rid of the passing game, but they may be getting rid of a lot of these quick passes, and it may be more power run game. You don't need a Darren Sproles for a power run game.
There's one guy in the draft, and I know people like to focus on local guys, but he can return punts, he can return kicks, and it's the deepest wide receiver draft ever.
Yes.
Right out of Isidore Newman. Odell Beckham Jr. can do it all.
Perfect fit, isn't he?
And I love the shot the Saints have at him with these guys in front of him, with the Sammy Watkins of the world. Mike Evans is going to be in front of him. Receiver out of USC might be in front of him. If he's there at 27, wow. I mean, he can do it all. I mean, who right now can we say on the roster is returning punts for the Saints?
Well, there really is no.
I mean, Lance was the backup.
Right, he was.
Yeah, and he's gone.
Right, he's gone.
I mean, Odell Beckham Jr. lit it up as a punt returner. His hand, literally, if you shook his hand, it was like double my hand. I never seen a receiver with big hands like that. I mean, he's out there at 27.
I'll tell you what, I hate to be a homer, but he would be my pick because, first of all, as you mentioned, returns, punts, and kicks. He's going to be a guy that ultimately is going to be a darn good receiver in this league, but he's also a guy, much like Sproles, much like Bush, you can utilize him to move that linebacker. They got to respect his speed, and he would be the same type of player. Maybe a different position because you're not bringing him out the backfield, but you could still use him on those wide receiver screens. Sure. You could put him in the backfield. You could move him. We've seen it with Devery Henderson. We've seen it with other players where they've utilized kind of moving that linebacker to open things up. I'm telling you right now, I hate to say it because it makes you look like a homer, but I think he's the perfect fit.
No, it's a double deal. I mean, you get him a receiver and punt returner, and he can do kicks.
Yes.
He does it all. I mean, you're signing a guy at the end of the first round, and you can get him possibly playing 3 positions. It's one of the best deals that the Saints could get. Mike Evans is only playing one spot now. He plays that one spot pretty well,
right,
playing receiver. Same with Sammy Watkins, but Odell Beckham Jr. could do it all.
Right, I would agree. Back to the phone lines we go. Hunter is in Metairie. Hunter, welcome to Inside New Orleans Sports. Thanks for calling tonight.
Good evening, gentlemen. And I want to say, first of all, that your show is great. I watch you every chance I get.
Thank you.
I was calling about, first I wanted to say that I miss Reggie Bush. I'm sure everybody does. What a player he was. And one thing I wanted to ask you guys about is, who are we looking at for special teams and mainly kickoff returns this year? Who do we have, and who are we looking at? Now I'll sign off.
Hunter, thanks for the phone call. I think we just I don't know if that guy exists on this team right now.
They've used Pierre Thomas
right,
at kick return in the past. Travaris Cadet has been kick return in the past. I don't know who they punt return right now. Maybe Kenny Stills, but I don't know if there is a guy on the roster that they would be comfortable enough doing it.
You know, one guy that was in free agency and he got swooped right up, and I heard a lot about was Dexter McCluster.
Yes.
He would have been a great pickup, but he got swooped up pretty fast because he could. He was a third down guy. He could have did the punt returns. Yeah, I'm amazed that we're this deep in free agency, and I can't name a punt returner right now. But hey, he might be out there, and they might get him on draft day, and might be the guy out of Kent State. Obviously, his stock has risen fantastically. He ran a 4.2 40. I don't know if he'll be around in the second round, but that's one of the guys who runs a 4.2. Wow.
Yes.
I mean, he can see what he can do in special teams.
I think it's a target. Honestly, I would be surprised if they don't go after that Bush Sproles clone and a guy that, again, maybe in the beginning he is that punt kick returner, and they use him, they utilize him at some point. And as we mentioned, I think Odell Beckham fits it perfectly. But there are some other players, I'm sure. Again, Rick Ripers has already gone through the litany of players out there that could fit that. I don't think they let a Sproles go unless they have that dimension, because that's a big part of the Saints offense.
Yeah, Rick Ripers probably got some guy to shatter on State that he loves right now. We
go.
never heard of. Jari Evans out of Bloomsburg, Marcus Colston out of Hofstra. They always, last year, West Texas A&M, Kyrie Robinson, the first time I interviewed him, I'd ask him, I did Google Map search right before I interviewed him. I'm like, where the heck is West Texas A&M? I'm amazed.
Still couldn't tell you.
Yeah, I'm amazed these guys, it's by Amarillo. But I'm amazed that they find these guys. I mean, there's no stone unturned with this group with Ryan Pace and Rick Rapriche there. So maybe they're going to find some guy out of Canada like Akeem Hicks. You never know.
Yeah, you never know. Restructuring of deals. Saints have done a great job in restructuring deals. As you guys have mentioned, Pierre Thomas restructures, signs a 2-year extension, saves $1.4 million against the cap. Keenan Lewis today restructures, shifts some money to $1.2 million savings in this year, $1 million savings next year. Guys, who else on this team do you think's in line to restructure their deal if they need more money under the cap?
I can't recall offhand, and that's my bad, but I'm not sure if Broderick Bunkley can restructure anymore at this point. I'm not even sure if he's on the team anymore at this point by the time training camp and the draft gets here, but I'm not sure there are many spots you can at this point look at. I mean, Drew Brees, obviously, if they really wanted to, but then you're really pushing a lot of money towards the back
next
there.
year is probably the year you look to him, if at all, because remember that cap expands next year as well.
Lofton possibly, but
maybe a Colston, maybe a Grubbs and Jari Evans, but as you mentioned, that's you got I think $20 million tied up between those two guys. You're pushing it a little bit further back. I'm of the opinion that when you look at Bunkley, he is a post-June 1st cut, because you can spread that dead money over 2 seasons.
Right.
And again, he signed a very cap-friendly deal in the first 2 years of the deal. It balloons now his base salary $4.4 million over the next 3 seasons, each of the next 3 seasons, for a guy that, again, is really your third guy in the rotation at nose tackle.
And I don't think you're getting out of him what you expected or wanted to get out of him in the first place. He takes up space, but I'm not sure he does much with that space he's taking up.
Yeah, fellow Georgia Bulldog, Bradley, John Jenkins, he's a lot cheaper.
Oh, yeah.
It's all about cheaper and younger.
Yeah.
And that defensive line, if you go with Jordan, Gillette, Akeem Hicks, that is a lot of young guys. Now I say that they're cheap right now. Next year they will not be. Two of the guys on the outside will not be cheap.
No doubt about it. Guys, final question on the Saints before we move to the Pelicans. Do you think that the Saints are players now as we get, the second and third tier free agents? I'll take you first, Garland. Do you think there's a couple more players out there the Saints may be bringing in, or are they pretty much done at this point?
I mean, I was surprised at the fullback position. I thought maybe Jed Collins would get another 1 or 2 year deal. He was I can't recall him not delivering in any process, pass block, running the ball. But like Bradley had said, they brought the other running back in, Lord, because he can block better in the run game. Right now, I can't really think of anybody off the top of my head, but they'll surprise us.
Right.
There'll be somebody. I mean, Meacham is still out there. I mean, he's got no takers. I mean, it was like Devery Henderson last year. I just think there's a market for Robert Meacham. So maybe Meacham maybe gets like a little small deal there. And
we talked about Goodwin.
Yeah, Goodwin. Yeah, those are two I would think that maybe we could hear in the future.
If it's the right player, yes, but I'm not sure they're going to be movers and shakers at this point. I'm not sure there's anybody left out there that we haven't mentioned that they'd be really looking at.
Right. Did you guys buy into the Sidney Rice conversation at all? I got to be honest with you, I didn't. I mean, I don't know if he's a real fit for this team. He's been often injured throughout his career. There was talk that he could get him on a decent deal. You think Sidney Rice is maybe in the mix here?
It never hurts to kick the tires.
Hey, if it's cheap. But Sidney Rice wasn't cheap to get to Seattle.
Right.
But I mean, Percy Harvin, they got him for 2 games this year.
Yeah.
So and that salary was out of control there. If Sidney can get a good deal, I mean, maybe Sidney will play for less just to win a ring.
Yeah.
Sometimes you get to the end of your career and all you want to do is win that ring. And the Saints right now in the NFC, it is Seahawks, Niners, Saints. That's your top 3. I think the Panthers, they went to first. They might be worse this coming year. I mean, You got McNutt as your main receiver. I mean, I never heard of the receivers.
Yeah.
LaFell's gone, Steve Smith's gone. Roman Harper's going to a team that has gotten worse, not better. And Bucks, Falcons. I think the Saints are primed to win this division. I don't buy the Panthers this coming season.
Garland, I think you hit on something, and I think when you get down to this part of free agency and you've got some aging veterans that are out there, in a lot of cases they're looking to hook up with a team that has a chance to win a Super Bowl, and you may find a guy that a position of need that's willing to come in for that veteran minimum and be able to play for you simply to get a shot at a ring.
Sure. I mean, why not? If you're willing to play for what is a lot of money to me, but not a lot of money to them,
right.
and willing to work and be a part of a team and have a reduced role, why not?
Let's head back to the phone line. Sean is in New Orleans. Sean, welcome to Inside New Orleans Sports. Thanks for calling.
Hey, how you guys doing?
Hey, Sean.
Hey, I just want to say I enjoy the show. I've been, you ever guys ever check out over the cap.com? I mean, I listen to you guys' conversation. You talk about people that could be on a team or cap hits. And it's very interesting. I think a lot of fans should look at it because you look at those list of people who make high incomes. I would have to say Jari Evans, Ben Grubbs, Marcus Colston, Broderick Bunkley, and David Hawthorne probably won't be on that team next year moving forward. I think the two guards count like $20 million against the cap this year. They'll be in their 30s, well into their 30s. I don't see them making $11 million per at that position, and Colston will be making close to $9 million next year. I don't see him getting that kind of money on the open market at this stage of his career either. So with some changes there, they'll have a whole bunch of cap room, I would think, in the future. But anyway, I just want to ask, what do you guys see them getting in the draft? Do you think they might go Garland as the guy from Stanford and maybe some other people or something like that so we can get the cap clear to move forward? Not hanging the record.
Sean, thanks for the phone call. I do like the website Over the Cap. It gives you pretty much a clear picture of what's happening with the cap, and they seem to update it quite a bit. I think we're all in agreement. They're going to go after offensive linemen in the draft. Am I right? I mean, you look at Evans, you look at Grubbs, what they're making right now, where they are in terms of their age. You have to start looking toward trying to groom somebody that's going to move into those positions.
Both were Pro Bowlers this year, so somebody thinks that they're still playing at a high level. I can't see the Saints getting rid of both of them, maybe one of them next year. But again, we're talking about 2015 at that point. This season, 2014, they're going to be around, and they may restructure, they may not. But draft-wise, I think cornerback, wide receiver, and offensive lineman, and you go best available at those positions. That'd be my guess for the Saints.
I'm in total agreement.
Yeah, and look at they didn't think Charles Brown was the answer. They brought in Armstead. Now, obviously, right now, Grubbs and Evans are the answers at those positions, but it never hurts they'll find the guy. I have no faith. All the faith in the Saints that they're going to find these diamonds in the rough that we haven't heard of before, and they'll get their next. I know Matt Tennant was one of the guys that didn't work out that they drafted, but they've done a great job of finding the future guys, and I think they'll find somebody. I don't know. I'm not going to be the person that picks a guy in each round and said this is who they're going to draft. There's just too many guys out there.
Yeah,
I mean, to pick them out there between the Senior Bowl and the Combine, there's just too many names. First round's kind of you can almost point to some guy here and there, but further down the line, I can't say who they're going to draft in the 4th or 5th round now.
I don't think anybody can at this point. Shifting gears, again, it's really on the back of the psyche of the New Orleans sports fan right now because of the type of year they had. The Pelicans are 27-40. They've been often injured throughout this season. And I'm going to ask you guys the same question I've been asking guys on my radio show and on this show as well. And Brother, I'll take you first on this. What have we learned about this club, the New Orleans Pelicans, this season that we can take to next season? To talk a little bit about it. What do we know that we can say, okay, next season, we know we got this?
Anthony Davis.
That's it.
That guy's incredible. He's awesome. Like I'm not necessarily what you call a fan as a journalist. I enjoy the games. I don't necessarily get into it. I love watching Anthony Davis play. Like I really, really enjoy it. I think he's going to take another step, obviously, next year, his leadership role. I think what you do see is, as much as it pains me, I think Tyreek Evans may actually end up being a good piece for this team. Eric Gordon, I think, has come back. I don't necessarily know if he is. And I don't think we saw enough out of Drew Holiday. But I think one thing you can take into next season, Anthony Davis is awesome.
I think take next season, you hope that these guys are healthy next year with Holiday and possibly Jason Smith, get back to help. Ryan Anderson.
He's a free agent next year, Jason Smith.
Yeah.
At the end of this season.
That's the kind of guy you might have to let go just because of health. I mean, he's hurt all the time.
Right.
But yeah, AD going forward, I asked Monty on Monday, I was at practice, Steve Kerr went on ESPN radio and said right now the two faces of the NBA are LeBron and Kevin Durant. And he said in the next few years, Anthony Davis is going to be the third face of the NBA. And I asked Monty and I asked Tyreek Evans about it. They couldn't disagree. Monty pointed to last summer, Coach K, during U.S. national team practices, that this is going to be one of the faces of the NBA going forward. And they couldn't dispute that that's not going to happen. AD can disrupt the game without scoring 1 point. That's what Monty talked about the other day, and it's true. He can block 8 shots. He can throw some assists in there. He can get rebounds. He's the kind of guy that people come to New Orleans to play with. And right now, if this team is healthy next year, I know we said this year, I thought they're going to be locked in that 8th seed. And if all these guys come back next year healthy, I'm going to say the exact same thing. They have a chance at the 8th seed.
I know you have a different. Do you have the same opinion?
I mean, I think they're a team that could push that way. They're a couple pieces away. I think they're loaded at positions that maybe, or they're overloaded at positions that maybe they don't need to be. But there's enough talent on the team that they absolutely could. They need another piece, and I think it's in the head chair that can push them over the top.
Yeah, guys, I think that again, it's almost a blessing in disguise, so to speak, on what happened this year with the injuries, because I think a lot of these veterans had a tough time turning the team over to Anthony Davis. I think now this is Anthony Davis's team.
No question.
And I think that next year when these veterans come back, the offense will flow through Anthony Davis. It will be Anthony Davis's team going forward, where I think there might have been a little bit of a power struggle in that locker room because you had so many guys who were, again, 4-year guys, but were veteran guys, now having to look to the 20-year-old.
Sure. I mean, I think like Eric Gordon, I think he was supposed to be the leader of the team, and now he's not a bit player, but he's a player that can help them. He's not the guy. I think you mentioned the veterans, having the seed power. I think it was important for Anthony to be in control and learn how to deal with it as much as it is the veterans seeding it to him.
Yeah, next year, the only rookie on the team will probably be Pierre Jackson. They'll have no draft pick. They're going to lose it to the Sixers.
Yes.
So Pierre Jackson's overseas right now. That's going to be your only rookie. Because this year, the only rookie was Jeff Withey. When AD made 21, Withey had to sing happy birthday to him. It was awful. I had to listen to it. Right. It was not good. But, that's their whole draft. Next year is going to be what Pierre Jackson can do at that spot. Do you bring Al-Farouq Aminu back? Brian Roberts, is he still there? Or do you go youth with Drew and Pierre Jackson?
We got 2 minutes left, guys. Quickly, is the 3 position the most critical piece that's necessary for this team to move forward next season?
No, I think the 5 is.
You think the 5?
I think they need a center. I think the center is the biggest piece they're missing on this team right now.
So the steamer is not the answer at the center.
Steamer is not the answer, although I do love his made shot sound.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? The one thing that with this losing record, Jeff Withey's getting a lot of work, and he can. I tell you one thing, he did that alley-oop pass to Anthony Davis and Anthony's 40-point, 21 rebound effort against the Celtics. I like what Withey's got going forward, but I don't know if he's the starting center right now. So yeah, Jason Smith, if you want to kick the tires one more time, I mean, he's been injured twice, so I don't know if you want to bring him back again.
I'm of the opinion they may have to live with the 3-headed monster. They really need some help at the 3 right now. Yeah. I don't know if they can really go into next season without a bona fide 3, but we'll see. Guys, again, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Always appreciate you guys coming down. Always love having you guys on the panel. Again, Brantley Handwerger of WWLTV.com and Garland Gillen of Fox 8 Sports. Also want to thank you guys for tuning in. Remember, there is a rebroadcast of this program each and every Friday at 10 p.m. on WLAE TV and, of course, Pelican Sports Television in New Orleans, Baton Rouge, and Lafayette. And you can always check us out live each and every Thursday night right here on WLAE TV. You can also catch me on the radio weekdays, 11 a.m. until 1 p.m. on 990 a.m. WGSO. You can catch my podcast or any of the shows that you've missed here on Inside New Orleans Sports at ericasher.com. Check out those out there. You can also follow me on Twitter at Eric_Asher. Special thanks again to our guest and also to the WLA production staff, Ron Yeager, Jim Dotson, Donovan Joseph, Kenny Juneau, my director, William Hill, and of course, for Brantley Handwerger, for Garland Gillen, my name is Eric Asher. Have a wonderful evening, New Orleans, and we'll see you right back here next Thursday night, 6 p.m. for Inside New Orleans Sports. Good evening.
Inside New Orleans Sports with Eric Asher is underwritten by the Union Capital Corporation and Natel's Air Conditioning and Heating, a proud sponsor of the St. Jude Dream Home.